when we enter into the beef cows, we have two specific areas where these products were designed and made for. One is for what we call the dry lot calving, where the producers bring they have restricted pastures, or they bring them into a dry lot. And if you've ever seen a dry lot, you'll know that when it rains and so forth, those calves really are under a lot of stress, and we want to take care of those calves. And when they're out in the ranches, we know that they're usually calving in a clean place. They've got separation, and we see less problems in the range calves than we do in the calves in the feed yards. So we've adjusted the products for those situations.
Welcome to the Beef Podcast. I am your host, Brandy Buzzard, and it's my pleasure to bring you the latest trends and issues from the best and brightest minds in the beef industry. Today, we are joined by Bob Timms and Dr. Conrad Schmidt, both of Precision Health Technologies. Bob is the head of sales and business development at Precision Health, and Dr. Schmidt is the chief research and technology officer. We are very thankful today for Bioverse sponsoring today's episode, and I'm looking forward to speaking with both of our guests about calf health and management. So with that, I welcome both of you to the podcast, and I thank you both for being here.
Well, I'll go first, and I want to say thank you for the invite, and thanks also to Bioverse. So Precision Health Technologies is enjoying a place in the market of trying to support gut health naturally with polyphenols. So, we're dealing in this world of grass where we can't make any claims at all. And so it's going to be fun to give an introduction to how we fit into the beef world and technically how it works.
Great. So to start off with, can both of you bring us up to speed on your background, how you got started in the beef and cattle industry, and your career thus far? Dr. Schmidt, would you like to go first with that?
Sure. Well, it all started out by tagging along with my father, who is a general practitioner here in our own town. And in fact, this isn't the beef industry, but he had me at 5 to 6 years old pulling pigs because I had a small hand and I could help him in that case. I got really interested in beef when I saw our local cow calves and our feed yards at that time, and they were in a transition where we had like owners with 10 to 20 cows and feed yards like with 50 cattle in it. And then all of a sudden, as I was in high school and growing up, the transition started where people were expanding their feed yards and expanding their cattle herds and were buying out the little guys, or the little guys were selling them. Right now, I went to the college veterinary school. I graduated from the University of Minnesota. Actually, I had a minor in nutrition, and I specialized in beef management, the cow-calf herds and feed yards. I think they gave that to me because I had to learn how to rope, and I had to learn how to work with 500 to 700 pound feeder steers, fat cattle, and big cows. And I learned the hard way. I was down with one of our purebred Hereford breeders, and the cow had just calved, and of course she had a prolapse. Well, he called me to put the prolapse back in, and after I got the prolapse in, the cow congratulated me by pushing me into a barbed wire fence, and I've still got the healed wounds in my back. But I just love veterinary medicine. I love animals. And basically, I need to tell you that I grew up with bugs and drugs. And during my tenure, I sort of found out that, hey, we just can't always use medicine, drugs, antibiotics. And that's how we basically got into this. How can we lower antibiotic usage, still keep it, but lower antibiotic usage and have healthy beef, healthy pork, healthy poultry, healthy steaks. So that's sort of my background. I'm a veterinarian. I've been through the mill. I've seen everything. And I basically got very interested when I retired from veterinary medicine here in Worthington. I took up how can we find good, safe, non-withdrawal alternatives for animals.
Well, thank you for that illuminating background. I could visualize so many of the things that you were saying. So I appreciate that. Bob, would you like to share with us, your background, how you got where you're at today in the beef industry?
You bet. So, my introduction started with working at Newport Laboratories, which was an autogenous vaccine manufacturer that provided, multi isolate um, products, autogenous vaccines for the industry. And so that's given me my access and experience, working with veterinarians and clinics and producers. And I see working at Precision Health is a wonderful extension of using all natural products.
We have a time and labor saving product for you. Beef and Dairy Agrislat by Healthy Farms is your solution. No more lugging jugs around the barn every month. With Beef and Dairy Agrislat, you simply drop the slat through the floor twice a year, and it works to break down solids, reduces crusting and forming. To learn more, visit myhealthyfarms.com.
Great. Well, since we're kind of on that topic, let's just dive right in. Can one of you or both of you give me an introductory overview of Precision Health Technologies, its history, the mission, that kind of thing?
So it's interesting that the product is based on patents that were initially developed for human health and specifically third world enteric health problems. But it was designed and tested and developed on swine for the similarity in anatomy. And so they have developed a patented process for activating polyphenols from plant extracts so that they can go to work and help promote the healthy functioning of the intestines. And so a lot of our focus is traditionally on the swine and poultry and calves because it needs to be when they are a mono gut, when they're a simple stomach. And so, the calves and the veal calves, and the goats, they all start out with a simple stomach. So our product is able to help them, and we utilize plant extracts like green tea, which is a anti-inflammatory, things like pomegranates that are prebiotics, and things like berry mixtures that provide all kinds of antioxidants and different benefits. So what we're doing is using these activated polyphenols to help promote that healthy villi and brush border in the intestinal tract, but also to help repair it when there are challenges.
So, what kinds of problems? I mean, Dr. Schmidt, like is there one main product that we're talking? It sounds like we're talking about one main product here. What is that product called? And then what kind of problems are solved with that?
Okay, I'd just like to add to what Bob said a little bit about the product. We basically use PhytoCare as a brand, and that brand carries between all species. What he talked about is selecting plant extracts using the patented process, just like Bob said. And we have a term that we use it's APM, activated phenolic molecules. And basically, what those molecules do is that they're not to be placed in the feed, but they're delivered by the drinking water.
Oh, okay.
And what they are is that as we supply them in the drinking water, or these APM products go into milk replacer, or we make a series of pastes, especially for calves, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is that what it basically does is that it is a product that is highly soluble. It goes and is absorbed into the cells that can be affected by challenges. And what we basically say is that these basic products are designed to support intestinal digestive function and cellular health. So if we have healthy cells and we have a healthy animal when it starts, and we keep that animal healthy, they're going to be more productive if they go through sickness and so forth, like some of the calves do. So that's just a little breakdown in the product that Bob talked about. And then also with that is that we talk about gastrointestinal function, or GIF. And our products, especially in the calves, they're used to keep these calves basically at a level of high intestinal health, so that if they do get stressed, or if they do get diarrhea, or if they do get sick, and all of these calves we basically look at 4 calves. We look at of course the dairy calf. Those dairy calves that are kept as heifers on the farms are really well taken care of, but they also take what we call wet calves. And these wet calves have a whole different life function than what we see in the beef calf, in the beef cows. And when we enter into the beef cows, we have 2 specific areas where these products were designed and made for. One is for what we call the dry lot calving, where the producers bring they have restricted pastures, or they bring them into a dry lot. And if you've ever seen a dry lot, you'll know that when it rains and so forth, those calves really are under a lot of stress, and we want to take care of those calves. And when they're out in the ranches, we know that they're usually calving in a clean place. They've got separation, and we see less problems in the range calves than we do in the calves in the feed yard. So we've adjusted the products for those situations.
Okay. So when I was reading through, you've transitioned me this nicely for me. So I was reading through, looking at the website and reading through some materials as I was preparing for the episode, and I saw something called PhytoCare Calf Health. So that sounds exactly like what you're just explaining there. Do you want to elaborate that more, or maybe how it relates to polyphenolic animal health? Did I say that right? Polyphenolic?
APM's the easy way.
We'll just say
Activated phenolic compounds. Yeah, what I would sort of like to do, if it's okay with you, is just sort of take the way that the team at PHT has put together what we would call our calf prevention and management program. I'll probably let Bob cover the products because, but I think this is really important, is that as we built this program, the first thing that we did is that we took a look at beef calves, dry lot calving versus what I call pasture calving.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also took a look at dairy calving and the dairy herds, and we took those as heifer calves and what we call wet weaned bull calves, which are shipped out like 3 days. But let's just cover the beef calf. I think that's really important. So these are the things that we took a look at. That we think in the dry lot, we have a higher risk for what we would call calf stress, calf environment, probably more what we would call dehydration and setback. In the pasture raised calves, or what I call the range calves, when they calve, they're basically out in the range, and they're basically not as sensitive to disease problems. But it's so important that a calf gets started right, that we've developed products that we use when we see 4 conditions in calves. And what those basic conditions are is that every rancher, every beef cow owner knows that a first calf heifer tends to have higher calf problems than a second or third calf cow. We also know that on the range, we only have one opportunity to really work and help that calf. And when we look at the range calves, when the calf hits the ground, we hope that that calf is up and nursing right away. And when the wranglers come, or the owners come to check the calf out, they basically can see a calf that's running around and having good access, and is more than likely getting its mother's milk.
right.
But mother's milk in both areas is absolutely important. So that begins the whole what we call gastrointestinal function, where they have to have that mother's milk. We do not like to have anything given to a calf in the first 24 to 48 hours orally. Our program at PHT is don't do anything to that calf orally. Just make sure that she's nursing, or he's nursing, and the mother accepts the calf. After that, what we worked with as a team, we found out that in those first parity calves, or in the heifers, they are often basically a little bit lacking in protective antibodies in the calves, in the mother's milk. When the calves nurse, in all of these calves, we've developed a solution that that people can give, or a paste, whichever one they like to use. Uh, at the wrangler's time, what they do is that when they first process the calf, we like to have them give the paste because they can carry that right in their saddlebags or the bag, and it's real handy to use, and they can carry that with them at all times. The ranchers, it's pretty hard to use a liquid through a syringe and dose that calf orally because they've got other major things to do.
Yes. Yeah.
So we also have that what we call early added colostrum pack in a paste or liquid, but we've also developed what we call a skin spray.
Oh.
And we also know that wet navels can really be a problem in newborn calves. So what we like to do when the wranglers process that calf, whenever they process it, they have to put an ear tag in. They have to take care. They may even vaccinate these little calves. I mean, depending upon their standard procedure on how they take care of their calves. But what we've developed is a paste that basically supports the colostrum of the calf. And what it does, it inoculates the calf with the correct probiotics, which is selected for ruminant calves. The next thing with the calves is that what we end up doing is that we basically have a paste that they can use. That paste basically adds to the colostrum, and they also use that skin on the navels. This is also in the dry lots, but the dry lots tend to have a higher level of potential calf scours just because of their environment. So with those calves, what we do is that we use the paste, but we also encourage them in the dry lots to use the liquid drench because they can get the calf, and we like that better. So as we go on, we basically talk about the products are really essential in first calf and second calf cows. The older cows tend to have higher levels of colostrum, etc., and people can use the paste. It's good for those, but sometimes they just don't want to go to the expense. My issue is they've been nurturing that cow and calf for so long that if you start the calf out right and give it everything it needs, you're probably going to have a more healthy animal.
Right.
Then Bob can address this too, but as we go through, we have other solutions that we've made up with formulations using our patented APM technology that we can give a boost to the calf as they're transitioning in age. And there's a difference between the feedlot, the dry lot versus the ranch. And I'll try to get through this is that we look at the ranch as a one-time deal. Man, when you process that calf, you should be using a PhytoCare paste product or an oral drench on that pasture calf. It just helps them get started right. We have products if the calves start to get dehydrated or maybe falls behind a little bit. We have a paste product, and an oral solution that you can give that calf both times. If you see a calf that is a little bit dehydrated and has a low appetite and just isn't right, we have another solution and a paste for that calf. And then also with a calf that has an acute problem, they'll do everything they can. And we found out that if we increase our dosage, which we've done in what we call our acute care calf, then what we can do, it's compatible with antibiotics. So we encourage, save the darn calf, you guys. Get that calf as best as you can. And a little investment in that calf at any time you see it with a wet behind or falling behind or a little bit dehydrated.
Mm-hmm.
In the dry lots, they can do that. On the pasture, it's hard because sometimes catching a calf or even roping a calf is harder on the calf because of the stress. So we encourage those people that if they can see that calf weak, a lot of our people will take that calf and bring it up to either area where they can just house the cow and calf and watch it, because all the pastures have a loading area or a collection area. So they basically will put the few cows on the pasture that are having calf troubles. They'll put them in what I call a stockade area or a pen area, and they'll take care of them there. So that's a short, long-winded veterinarian's approach to how we manage calves. I would like to say this. It's very important to understand that the products we have are basically for intestinal health to improve digestive processes and are short term. You just don't feed these products to a calf. A sick calf doesn't eat. He doesn't eat enough to get the benefits. So you have to go to the treatments that PHT has designed. They're basically non-therapeutic because of their extracts. We can't make claims. They're not injectables. They're basically natural products, and people tend to drift away from natural products. But the problem is if you understand the dosage level and the formulation that that calf needs, these treatments have proven very, very beneficial and part of an effective treatment to get calves back on high health.
Well, I appreciate the rundown there. I mean, everything that you were explaining makes sense about setting them up for success throughout their life. Did I understand correctly that it's not necessarily just for newborn calves, that you could be using it at other stressful times in a calf's life if they're off feed or showing, having scours or something like that? Is that
Absolutely. The way we looked at it is that once a calf is what we call has a functional rumen, and that can be at any time that they're basically consuming 35% of their dry matter intake is hay. They all want to try to get them on hay as soon as you can. Once they reach that 35 to 40% intake of hay, they've transitioned from being a monogastric into a rumen. And all of our products are designed for early calf care. And once they basically reach that period, we have one product that we've designed to help older calves in their drinking water, or, what I call wean calves. But I would say that 80% to 90% of our effort is in what we call calf management until they get an active rumen.
so? You've been mentioning, this different range calving versus closed lot calving or dry lot, and we calve on the range. I mean, so everything you're saying about you have one shot to really get a hold of that calf before you're going to stress it out trying to rope it, that all rings very true. Are there other issues between open range and dry lot calving that you see, and how PHT can assist with that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Um, my experience has transitioned into more understanding a technology that benefits from what I saw when I was really a practitioner. But I really feel that dry lot care is strictly management. When I was a veterinarian, I could see results from products when I had good management. If I had sloppy management and I was taking care of a calf that was environmentally cold, wasn't kept in a warm place, kept dry, mother had dirty, filthy underlines, hard to keep her mammary gland clean, etc. Those are tough situations.
Mm-hmm.
And when they ended up with dry lot, a lot of times they early weaned them. And of course, I don't think early weaning in a dry lot is the thing to do either. So if you understand what I'm saying, is it becomes a bigger management issue where you want to try to keep those calves nursing and on the cow, because I truly feel that when they breed back the cow, if the cow has a normal birthing period along with supporting the calf until they wean the calf, they have higher breed back if they don't.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's a short answer to a good question. And it's really based on the people and how they want to take care of their calves. Now, with show calves, when they're working on the show calves, there's no question that they invest in the best way they can to take care of those calves.
Right.
So when you have show calves and you have producers that are genetically inclined, man, they take care of those calves, and following the way they have taken care of the calves, that's why we've developed these products just like the show calf industry. So we've copied some of the needs of the show calf industry to formulate these products.
You're right on target there with the show calf comments about making sure they have the absolute best care and being set up. On our ranch, we are in fall calving right now, and it doesn't really feel like fall calving because it's supposed to be 87 degrees today. The mornings are cool, so it's technically it will. I guess it'll be technically fall calving after in like another week and a half. So bear with me. But as we know, what I call winter calving, other people call it spring, but February is winter. So winter calving, spring calving will be here soon. What kind of issues do you see? Like how does phytocare play a role in these two different calving seasons? Because like for us, we don't deal with like 35 and rainy or snowy during our calving season the way some people might if they live much further north, or if they even are calving in February, March. There's different geographical issues, and so how does phytocare help producers in different calving seasons and areas?
I know we're limited, but my father and I, we basically were in a partnership with a cow calf, Black Angus cow calf herd out in the Black Hills. And one of the issues is that one of these spring blizzards came through, and we actually lost 35 to 40% of our calves.
Oh,
So that was horrendous. I mean, they were outside, lots of snow, couldn't get at them. So I really think that in winter calving, it's probably more important to make sure that these calves have got a comfortable windbreak, or that they throw the bedding out. They've got a place where that calf can snuggle up and try to stay as warm as they can. And actually, it's so important to start in a monogastric to start the right what we call intestinal. That's why we talk about gastrointestinal formulation and function. In those high stress calves time, my recommendation and why we developed is that we have a paste called BioLife that basically can support those calves. It's real early. It works well. It's got the vitamins. It's got the immune enhancers. It's really a compatible paste, low cost that these producers can give to that calf like once every 3 or 4 days during those stress periods.
okay.
So BioLife is sort of a stress calf product. I need to let Bob handle some of this because Robert is the one that said, okay, Connie, I've been with you. I've seen what you're talking about. Can we address the calf herds? And this is new, it's innovative, and it basically is not one of these all-purpose generic pastes. The paste products that we've developed are basically for specific conditions. And the beef cow producers have to just look at how they're used, when they're used, and if they have a problem. Calf mortality is not really high. It can be really high, but it's a function of how much mother's milk they get. So we really believe that if you take a little time and dose those calves with healthy probiotics for the time of age they are, etc., what you end up doing is that you just promote and block negative pathogens or stress bacteria that can cause low grade diarrhea in those calves. And so I guess that's a quick answer. I could go on for hours, but I think you can see that there's a passion for what we're trying to do, and to deliver it is very hard because I grew up as a bugs and drug guy.
Right.
I learned that I, as a responsible veterinarian, I've spent the last 15 years looking at how I want to use antibiotics, but hey, if I can help my calf get better without them, that's what I want. Plus, I wanted to develop products that were compatible and not against or antagonistic to antibiotics. So if producers have to use antibiotics orally or injectably for pneumonias or scours, this is really the time where this basically probiotic paste like BioLife and others tend to really be to help.
They work in complementary modes.
Right. So
That's great. Well, that's certainly, I agree that, we would want to, that if you can avoid having to use them, that's ideal because for multiple reasons, antibiotics are expensive. You have to manage the animals to make sure the withdrawal times, nobody wants to have sick animals. So I think that makes just perfect sense to have products that can help reduce the need for those.
It's time for our famous three.
We are coming to the close of our time we have today, but I want to make sure that we get to our questions that I ask every other guest that's on our show. So the first one is, I gave you a heads up on these, so you guys, I'm not like throwing at them last minute, but what is your favorite beef or cattle related resource? And this is a question for both of you. So doesn't matter to me who goes first, but your favorite beef or cattle related resource.
my resource is basically my colleagues, the veterinarians that I know that are in the industry, and also the producers that I worked with before I got into PHT. I could tell the resources of producers that wanted to save their calves and really cared about them. I also know producers that just had the cows running around for some reason, and they were either working in town, and by the time I got out there to help in the delivery, it was probably a dead calf. And so I think it's the colleagues that and your contacts at the universities. And we have to go west for a lot of that contact.
Mm-hmm.
We have to go where the beef cows are. And it's important to build those relationships.
Great.
This is going to be a little bit non-conventional, but I really enjoy following this resource in Denmark. It's a university that is publishing all kinds of information. They call it the Mono Gut Health Project. Now, I know most ruminant animals aren't going to tune into that thinking it doesn't apply to me. But what I really respect is, and it's both on LinkedIn and Twitter, they are doing continual research on extracts and natural health products. And what I think we've learned is as the antibiotics have either become less effective or have been removed from our use, we're learning we need to try and learn about more alternatives. So this Mono Gut Health Project in Denmark is very interesting to follow and read their publications.
Great. That is very interesting. Okay, so we'll spin it the other way. What is your favorite non-beef or cattle related book, or one that you're reading? So maybe you're not necessarily reading a book right now, but maybe one of your favorite books or something.
To me, it's the Bible. I think it's one of the most fantastic, and it's part of our life.
I've honestly not had anybody answer the question with the Bible before, so you are the first. Okay, Bob, what's yours?
I can't outdo that one. That's a wonderful answer, but I've been recently reading a book. It's called How to Deal with Grown Children.
Okay.
And the subtitle is How to Keep Your Mouth Shut and Your Door Open. So we're in that phase of life. And so that's a very interesting book that applies to a lot of us.
That does sound interesting. And I will say there is it's not a contest of who says the best non-beef book or something like that. So there's just different opinions. There's no contest. So well, thank you for sharing those. Our last kind of like pre-question here, pre-canned question or something that I ask everyone is, when you think of someone you admire or look up to, what is a characteristic they possess that has led them to be successful?
It's my wife and my kids and family. To be supported with a hot meal, with your kids waiting to eat when you come in from call, and it's 8:30 at night, and they're around the table. That just means everything. Also, I actually think that the clients that I worked with when I was a veterinarian were really salt of the earth, hardworking, good people, and they taught me a lot. So that would be my answer there.
Well, it's very heartwarming. Thank you for sharing that.
So mine's a little bit different, maybe more work focused, but I have always enjoyed learning and observing classic entrepreneurs. In the little town of Worthington, I've had the opportunity to work for three. And one was Bob Ludlow, a guy in the plastics and packaging industry. One was Wayne Fries, and then Dr. Schmidt. And seldom do people get that opportunity to work with three classic entrepreneurs. And I think so much of their drive in innovation and just never stopping, always driving. And, in our particular company, Dr. Schmidt,
Careful.
he may have retired once already. Maybe that's a way I can say it. But I tell you what, he is so passionately loving, trying to help provide solutions that are natural. Uh, he's a real inspiration.
That is also very heartwarming. So thank you for sharing that. I like these episodes where I have two people that are like building off each other. This is really nice. So, well, that is all the questions and time that we have today. I want to thank you both so much, Dr. Schmidt and Bob, for joining us today. If listeners have questions about PHT or about your products and want to learn more about our discussion, where can they do that?
Yeah, no, you bet. Our easiest place to go is phytocare.us. Now, if you prefer precisionhealthtechnologies.com, that's great, but I prefer phytocare.us. And just one thing I want to comment, in those websites, you're going to see multiple different formats of deliverables because all the complications that you two just described, from the feedlot to the open range, sometimes a paste is the perfect product. So we have four different levels and they're color coded: white, blue, yellow, red, because of the severity of the symptoms. And then we've got the liquid, which they may or may not have it on their horse and with them. But to have the spray for any cut, so it's kind of surprising. We're maximizing the use of a common technology that absorbs and promotes healing. So phytocare.us.
I was scrolling through your products while we were talking about them and seeing like the wide variety that are available. So it's not just for cattle, and I think that's nice because it's just you like to have variety and options. So I do want to add to that. I did put phytocare.us in the footnotes for our listeners, but you can also find them on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, X, formerly known as Twitter, the Clock app, as well as YouTube. So you can find them on all of those outlets if you're looking for more information or updates on products or research. So you can find them on all of the platforms. I very rarely have a company or a guest that has all of the platforms. So that's very impressive. Again, I just want to thank you for being on here today. We'd like to once again thank BioVerse for sponsoring today's episode. Thank you to our guests, Dr. Schmidt and Bob, for being here, and to our audience. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll meet you back here on the Beef Podcast.